has Daniel Levy managed to save Tottenham Hotspur's season? He's gone and finally invested in this team after Antonio Conte has been crying out for some players. He's gone and looks like he's got a deal done for Danjuma and also Pedro Porro to come into this Tottenham Hotspur team. And can this be the catalyst to get Spurs into the Champions League football? We're going to unpack those transfers now, but are Spurs going to be able to qualify? I think these are two very, very high profile, high quality signings that are going to give Spurs some really, really good depth in their squad at the moment. Obviously, they're competing for a spot in the top four. Everyone knows how important Champions League football is to these Premier League clubs. The money they get for being in the Champions League is massive, and it will be huge in order for Spurs to keep Antonio Conte. Now, the biggest move I think out of these two is the Danjuma move. Everyone's spoken about Spurs' current reliance on Harry Kane. Everyone knows how important Harry Kane is to the team, that the way that they play, the structure, and their ability to play out from the back and then through their midfield, obviously with Kane dropping in. Danjuma is going to give those other attacking options on the wing some real competition for their spot. So Kulusevski's only just come back from an injury. Obviously, Son hasn't been the same version of Heung-min Son as we've gotten used to over the last few years. Richarlison's coming back from injury. When you talk about Danjuma, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Son, Lucas Moura when he's fit, you're starting to talk about some really good options out wide for Spurs that you're going to have to be performing in order to stay in this team. So I think Danjuma, making sure that they've got that deal done. It looks like it's pretty well locked and loaded at time of recording. That seems like they've stolen him from Everton, where he would have been a locked-in starter every single game for Everton. I think Danjuma has the potential to really catapult this team into a chance at top four. Just looking at the table off to the side here, we've got Spurs are only 3 points behind Man United, but have played one extra game. When we are talking about having played 21 games in a 38-game season, there is plenty of opportunities here for Spurs in order to qualify for the Champions League, which I think is exciting if you're a Spurs fan. The other big signing that's come out over the last sort of 24 to 48 hours is the opportunity for them to sign Pedro Porro from Sporting Lisbon, who's a right wing back who is very, very technically gifted. If you play Football Manager, you know all about Pedro Porro, but he is going to come in and put some serious competition on the likes of Doherty and Emerson Royale, who granted have been pretty solid, but if Pedro Porro can show the promise that he's been showing over in Portugal as well, he's just going to suit into the system so well that he has the quality to really drive this Tottenham team forward and in a way that Antonio Conte wants this team to play. We know how important the wing-backs are for Antonio Conte, and this alludes to my big point. Who has been pulling the strings for these transfers? Has it been Daniel Levy? Has it been Antonio Conte? If it's Antonio Conte that's gotten what he wants, this could be the biggest part that is a positive for Tottenham Hotspur. If Daniel Levy has backed Antonio Conte and said, all right, who do you want and who are we going to get this transfer window? And if he's gone and got the two players that Antonio Conte wants, then Spurs have a real opportunity at crashing into the top four. And if I'm having to play Spurs and they've got Perisic on one side, Pedro Porro on one side, if they can find a way to get sort of Basuma and Højbjerg working in the middle, then with an informed Kulusevski, Son, Kane, and then bringing Danjuma on off the bench and bringing Richarlison in and Lucas Moura, all of a sudden this Spurs team starts to look a lot more solid. Do I think they're the finished product? No. I think if they can get one more quality centre-back in to go alongside Christian Romero and whoever the third centre-back has to be, I think that's the one area. We've seen Longley's not the finished product that he once was at Barcelona, and I don't think Davinson Sanchez or Eric Dyer or Tanganga are really going to get into this team. So if I am Daniel Levy, I'm going hard for a centre-back. It could be someone like a Harry Souttar who you could just put in the middle of a back three and let him go to work. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Let me know where you think Spurs are going to finish based on their signings. But right now, if you're a Spurs fan, you'd be thinking that the team's moving in the right direction. Now the ball is in Antonio Conte's court. He has to do what he does best. Can he get the best out of these quality players that are coming into Spurs? Only time will tell. Will Spurs qualify for the Champions League? I'm not prepared to put my house on it just yet, guys, but I think they're looking like a very, very interesting proposition.